Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to Southlake's webinar on race relations, reflecting and rebuilding. We hope that this is the place where you can listen, share, reflect, and learn about race relations in America and in our city. My name is Aparna Zalni.
And I'm Linda Warner. Aparna and I are residents of Southlake, and the death of George Floyd exposed yet again the deep wounds of race relations in our country. Protests have been out in many cities in the Metroplex, including Southlake. While the majority of the protests have been peaceful, there have been issues of violence, and there are also reports of aggressive tactics used by law enforcement.
We have a great panel of people representing our city. We have elected officials and officials from the school board, and we have the police chief. I'd like to welcome Mayor Laura Hill. Just wave your hand so everybody. Assistant Police Chief Ashleigh Casey. Michelle Moore, the president of the school board, City Councilman Ronell Smith, and City Councilman Dr. Shahid Shafi. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. Before we begin the webinar, we'd like to have Anishka Chokshi sing the national anthem. So please rise for the anthem. I'm sorry, we should have told you that. You have to rise for the anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow, thank you, Anishka. That was beautiful. I want to start by saying the purpose of this webinar is to move the conversation forward in our community. We all know what's happened. Now we need to look forward. We all agree that we need to be better and do better, but how is that going to look in Southlake in the coming years? This is not an endorsement of any elected official or politics at this point. This is a group of individuals who want to discuss where we go from here. At this time, I'd like to introduce everyone to Kush Rao of the Southlake Foundation. And thank you, Kush, for having the organization host it.
Thank you, Linda and Aparna, for the introduction. Hello all, this is Kush Rao, one of the volunteers of Southlake Foundation. Mission of Southlake Foundation has always been centered around community service. A group of like-minded people came together with the intention to do community service in the city of Southlake. We did quite a few events, cultural events, community events, webinars, to showcase the unity, to bring the cultural unity among the residents of the city of Southlake. Southlake Foundation acknowledges the current situation across the country and in the city. The purpose of this webinar is the people in the city are eager to know what's going on in the city in terms of safety, diversity, and what's being done to build the community relations in the future. As I mentioned earlier, the foundation is about community service. Right now, We believe the service can be done best provided by opening up the organization as a platform for dialogue, a dialogue between the residents and the leaders, a dialogue between the leaders themselves, and more importantly, a dialogue of transparency. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you, Mayor Laura Hill, for joining the panel. Thank you, Michelle Moore. Thank you, Officer Casey. Thank you, Ronell Smith. Thank you, Dr. Shafi. And thank you, Linda and Aparna, for moderating.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start the discussion now, but first I'm going to lay out some of the ground rules and how this will go. We're going to start with giving each panelist a moment to introduce themselves. And at the end, they will each be given a moment to reflect the conversation and what has happened. Attendees, please, you can text your questions over the chat. We have also been taking in questions from Facebook and personal texts. Please limit all questions to the topic at hand, and we will try to have them all asked. We might need to combine some questions. And I will, if you don't mind, start with Mayor Laura Hill for you to introduce yourself.
Okay, got me now. You might need the mute button with me. But first, thank you to the Southlake Foundation for hosting this, and welcome to my home in New Orleans, probably one of the most diverse cities in the country. And I'm glad I've been here this weekend. I had an opportunity last night to host many of my neighbors in my little uptown neighborhood, and we are an extremely diverse group, and we had an incredible conversation that lasted well into the morning. And I think that what people are doing everywhere is they're talking, and this is a positive thing. You know, Kush, you brought the board of the Southlake Foundation to meet with me a year ago, and we sat in town hall and we talked about the continual need to change our community and to move our community forward. And yes, we had plenty of coffees, and the dads had brew, you know, and talked and got to know their neighbors. And yes, we hosted great events like Celebrate Southlake. We put together the Mayor's Council on Unity and Culture. But one of the things we talked about that day with the Southlake Foundation board was that it's really about community service, about getting to know your neighbors and being put in new situations where you're talking to people and getting to know people that you might not normally cross paths with. Once we have a conversation with people and find out how much we have in common, that's how we get to our goal of having a community that is really cognizant of being inclusive, but more importantly, works toward it daily. You know, I've always said that as the mayor, my role is to guide. None of us can change hearts. We can set the example and give people the opportunity to have their hearts changed. So thank you very much for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we have Assistant Police Chief Ashleigh Casey. You're on mute.
Okay.
Oh, you're still on mute, Ashleigh?
I'm unmuting. It looks like somebody's muting me back. Okay, I think I'm on. Can everybody hear me now? Okay, my name is Ashleigh Casey. I'm the Assistant Police Chief with the Southlake Police Department. I've been there approximately 20 years this year. So I've had an opportunity over the last several years to kind of watch the community grow, but also grow with the community and maybe grow up a little bit with the community as a police officer and now as the Assistant Police Chief. One of the things that I think is interesting over the last several weeks as we have gone through the aftermath of the most recent incident with George Floyd is the fact that, you know, we've had protests across the country and even across our city. But one of the things that is most interesting to me about the last couple of weeks is the fact that even as we planned for these protests as a police department, and that planning included a lot of conversations and meetings with the organizers, we started as a police department to build relationships with those organizers at that moment. So as we went into these protests, from where we started to where we ended, I feel like in a very short period of time, we were able to build some bridges, we were able to build some trust, and we were able to rebuild some relationships or perhaps build relationships for the first time where they weren't there. There's been a lot of talk about trying to rebuild trust between police departments across the country with their communities. And I will tell you that we have been working on that well before this incident. We've been working on this for years. The thing that is striking to me, though, is there are times when I feel like that the burden of building those relationships is put squarely on police departments. And what I would say is that is all of our responsibility as a community. We can't have a relationship that's one-sided. Relationships are by their very nature more than one-sided. More than one person or entity has to be a part of it for it to be successful and for us to actually trust each other. So I welcome the opportunity to be a part of this today, and I hope this is really truly the start of a new day with our police department and our community.
Thank you so much. Next, we have School Board President Michelle Moore.
There. Hi everyone. Thank you so much to the Southlake Foundation for inviting me to be part of this panel. You know, I don't think I've hit the month mark of being president of the school board, and there's certainly a lot that has happened in the last 30 days. But I can tell you that we want to be part of these conversations. We know our students want to be part of these conversations. They want to use their voice to affect change. And we want to do what we can as a school district to support that and to help that be possible. We are very fortunate that we have an extraordinary relationship with the city, with Mayor Hill, with the city council, and we've been doing a lot over the last 2 years, you know, so things kind of, you know, we're kind of at that 2-year mark almost, you know, back in the fall of 2018, when all of this came to light in our community, when we had that racial video or the video with the racial slurs go viral. And these conversations have been going on now for some time. What has become very evident from talking with students, from seeing some of the stuff on social media, is that we still have a long way to go, but I can assure you that the district has prioritized this work. We've had a district diversity council working on this, and there's a lot that there's a plan that's, you know, hopefully will be approved very soon. And I think you'll see that we're kind of coming at this from a lot of different directions. The school district can only do one part, right? We need our families and our parents, the community. And I think if we're all coming together to continue to have these conversations and be very open, the work is going to be hard, and we're going to be very uncomfortable. But that's where change can happen. And I feel very positive that this coming year and these coming weeks and months, we're going to be able to see some of that change. But we're all going to need to be at the table and be patient, because this change is going to be hard. But it is definitely time for action. And, you know, I feel very, I think, fortunate to be able to be part of that change and to be able to lead the school board, because I know all of us, all the trustees want to be part of the solution and want to make sure our teachers, our staff, the district as a whole is building these resilient and culturally competent dragons. So anyway, thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, we have City Councilman Ronell Smith. Ronell? Oh.
Unmute me. Oh, am I muted?
You're up. Yep.
Okay. So thank you for having me, Kush. Me and Kush have talked numerous times over the last year as I was working through the election and became elected, and he knows what my heart was for wanting to be a councilman. I was in an interesting spot. I was very content not to be a politician. The whole video that went viral kind of thrust me into the spotlight, so to speak, because I stood up. I stood up not because I thought this community had a problem. I stood up because I thought we could respond in a much better fashion. And I specifically remember having conversations that began right after the video with each of the board members, including the current new board member, Mr. Lannon, and the superintendents, assistant superintendents, the entirety of the council, and Mayor Hill. And one of the things I found is the substance of why I always say I know Southlake has the right people, that everybody was up for the challenge. I remember the last conversation I had with council was with Mayor Hill, and I said I had no desire to be a council person, but here are the things I wanted to work on: kids, families, and businesses. And she said, hey, listen, you should step up and run. I want everybody who's passionate about supporting this community to get involved and support our kids, families, and businesses. I will say, it's unfortunate anytime something like this happens. But when I saw the video, to me, as someone who's been involved with Southlake Police Department as a cop for the last 5 years and having numerous conversations with Assistant Chief Casey and with Chief Brandon and Captain Thomas, I know we have the right people, the right butts in the right seats. And I make that statement because in 2018, I wasn't sure. When I was interviewing people in making the decision to run for council, one of the things I kept saying to people is we need to make sure we have the right butts in the right seats. And I came away satisfied with that being the case. To me, when I saw the video, I said, and it was kind of a weird reaction. I said, we'll finally get the police reform we need in this country. I felt like we needed to tease racism out from policing. And I'm not entirely convinced that's happening, but I feel strongly with some of the things that's happening that will be able to happen. What I'm really sensitive to, though, is we don't create even a further divide, even further friction. One of the things I've continued to say is as we march down this journey, if we have the right butts in the right seats, we have to have community involvement. And Michelle, you made that point, and Mayor Hill makes that point as well. One of the things that has to happen in a community like this is that we look across at one another and say, hey, I would say, I'm a Dragon, I'm a Southlake resident, and that's something I'm always proud of. Every Friday night I wear a Carroll Dragons football shirt or lacrosse shirt or track shirt, and to me that means something. But I want that to mean something in the minds of all of our residents. We have to find a way to tease politics out from this. We have to find a way to not allow people to pull at the threads of divide in this community, because as long as we have the right people pulling in the right direction, we will get there. To your point, Michelle, it won't be easy. Sometimes we have to recognize that, you know what, this conversation is worthwhile, but it'll be very, very, very painful. At the end of the day, I hope people realize we're not far off. It's not that we can't get there. It's just that the timing, again, this is 2 years after the video. A lot of these issues aren't germane to Southlake, like the policing. We don't have a policing issue in Southlake. I absolutely know that to be fact. But I feel like the things that we need to get done in this community, we have the right people. We just have to have them involved. So thank you.
Thank you, Ronell. And next we have City Councilman Dr. Shahid Shafi. Dr. Shafi, if we can get you off mute.
Okay, I think you can hear me now. So, well, thank you for putting this together, Southlake Foundation, Kush Rao, thanks for inviting me, Aparna and Linda. It's a pleasure to be here. My wife and I moved to Southlake in 2004, and we have raised 3 kids here. One of the very strong desires that both me and my wife, Aisha, had as immigrants was to find a community where we can grow roots. And we found it here in Southlake. But clearly that desire to build a community where every person, every family, every child is loved, respected, and cherished and safe is a universal desire. It's not unique to any single community. Unfortunately, it has been over half a century since Dr. King dreamt of a society where a person will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. But clearly we're not there yet. And once again, we see on our television and in our social media, our society is clearly being ripped apart at the seams of our superficial differences, those of race, religion, and ethnicity. And when I see those events, it's personally heartbreaking to me. It's depressing, it's demoralizing, it's discouraging, and I can think of many adjectives to describe it. Some people cry out for justice, and they show up in the streets, and they start protesting. But there's a larger population of people who have lost faith in our country, and they have just become quiet, and they just want to give up. But as an individual, I remain very optimistic. I remain optimistic for our country because I think we still continue to believe in our founding principle that all are created equal. I also remain optimistic for our country because we have overcome far worse divisions than what we are facing now. From slavery to Jim Crow segregation laws, to the Chinese Exclusion Act, to the internment of Japanese Americans, we have made a lot of progress. But clearly, many wounds of racial injustices are still festering. The question in my mind is really not who did what to whom and when. The question is how are we going to work together to heal those wounds? And to heal these wounds, we need to be able to talk openly about our grievances without demonizing the others. We need to acknowledge injustices that have been done in the past and that are being done today without blaming the children for the sins of their fathers. Blame, hate is a zero-sum game where everybody loses. So instead, we need to listen to each other. We need to build bridges with each other. We need to respect each other, cherish our differences in all the environments that we live in our schools, in our neighborhoods, in our streets, parks, restaurants, workplaces, and the city hall. And I continue to remain optimistic because, not because America is perfect, it's clearly far from perfect. But what makes us unique is that we continue to strive for perfection. And that's a journey that we must continue to pursue. So let me just stop there and then we'll get into some specifics as we go through the questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shafi. Okay, I'm gonna start with the questions. The first question goes to Mayor Hill. Your question is, how much have we learned from diversity initiative that you started 2 years ago? What steps have we taken to understand, integrate, respect all the varied cultures within Southlake?
Yeah, I think, 2 years ago with that video, that was a real shocking eye-opener. And we realized when we put together the Mayor's Alliance after having, coffees and conversation and getting groups together to talk about our problems and to be honest and to listen to parents share their just profound sadness at what their children have had to deal with. They weren't even worried about themselves. They were worried about their children. And so we put the Mayor's Alliance together. And I do want to say one of the things we've got to figure out is we have the District Diversity Council, we have the Mayor's Alliance for Unity and Culture. We've got 32 members on the Mayor's Alliance and I think 60, Michelle, plus on the Diversity Council. We have 18,000 adults in Southlake. And that was all that applied. And I would tell you that out of that, I don't think, but maybe 50% participate. So it is a bigger conversation. More of us have to step up. We've made huge progress because our community continues to push to be better. I think we've had 2 Celebrate Southlake events now, and we also added a community dinner where you just come and sit down with people you don't even know and you get to know them. Unfortunately, that was canceled this year. Several of our events had to be canceled this year because of COVID-19. I had lunch on Thursday before I went to the airport with the young ladies who organized the protest. And we had a 2.5-hour lunch at City Hall. And what I asked them was, what's next? What's next? How do we keep this going? How can our students help us push this forward? And the answer keeps coming back. We need more people involved. To have those uncomfortable conversations, we need everyone having those uncomfortable conversations, not the same, 3 or 4 philanthropy groups or organizations or diversity council or mayor's alliance. We need our community to step up. And with that will come big change.
Thank you, Mayor. This question is for Ms. Moore, for you. This is from Anna Simone. She's one of the attendees. She says, how will Carol ISD be able to make minorities such as myself feel respected and educate kids and teens about what is appropriate and inappropriate to say to someone who is a minority? And to that, I would add, what kind of training do we have for teachers and staff to deal with not overt racism, but some of the nuances that might come across as a compliment, but it's kind of uncomfortable? Is there anything you guys have talked about? Is there anything you can share?
Yeah, that's a very good question. One of the priorities of the District Diversity Council is around professional development. And I think our teachers definitely need, we know that they need training. We know that they need help not only with, in terms of how they teach their lessons and how they present information, but also with the behavioral things going on in the classroom. When they see 2 students having some kind of altercation that has, maybe there's a racial slur that's been said, or, you're making fun of something. I mean, we will not tolerate racism in Carroll ISD. And, one of the things I am most proud of that we immediately took action as a district and as a board was that we strengthened the student code of conduct so that we would, that it more clearly articulates, and we streamline consequences so that we do not tolerate hate speech or harassment regarding your race, your gender, your sexuality, all of that. It's a journey that we're on, and I think we're all learning, right? And we know that we need to make that a priority. In fact, one of the things that the board is going to do right now, we're in the process of being able to submit or recommend resolutions to it's called the Texas Association of School Boards. And actually it's an agenda item on our Monday meeting. And one of the resolutions that I would like our Carroll ISD to recommend to the state that would be advocated at the state legislature level is for help with that professional development. I mean, there's things that are out there, but we need to have things that are specific to us, and we need help. We understand we don't have all the answers in Carroll ISD. We need to go out and look for resources to provide that training so that every student, every parent always feels safe and welcomed in a Carroll ISD school, right? And so, I'm sorry if you've ever had an instance where you didn't feel welcome because of your race or your ethnicity. And I would also say, please report that type of thing. I mean, I think the thing that we hear, and back to Maris Holt's comment, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but this is an important point that I want to make is that, there was a lot of sadness and a lot of anger with different instances that have happened. And I feel that I hear parents saying, well, I reported it, nothing was done, right? I think you will find if you report something today, something will be done, right? And if you feel, and even if you do it anonymously, please do that, because that's why we've strengthened our policy and our student code of conduct just for that reason.
Michelle, thank you so much for that. Just a housekeeping reminder, once you're done speaking, please remember to put yourself on mute so we don't get some feedback. Our next question is going to go to Chief Casey. Chief Casey, we've been hearing a lot about police reform across the country, reforms banning things such as chokeholds, de-escalation training, and also recently the duty to intervene. Also officers wearing body cams. What can you tell us about the Southlake Police Department's policies regarding these matters?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because over the last couple of weeks, we've had the opportunity to answer quite a few questions and quite frankly, some demands from folks about those very things. There are a number of things that are going around on social media. There's the hashtag 8Can'tWait campaign that some people may be familiar with. And what I would say to that is that the first request we got, or the first demand we got, as it were, to implement the policies required for 8Can'tWait, my response was, those policies are already in place within our police department, and they have been for a number of years. So it's important, I think, for folks in our community to understand that as a police department, we've been an accredited agency for a number of years, almost 20 years to be exact. And like many other industries that have accreditation, that accreditation comes with standards that we have chosen 20 years ago. We chose to pursue this arena of accreditation. And that comes with many standards that we voluntarily comply with. A lot of those center around policy and procedure, specifically related to high-risk areas such as use of force, de-escalation, that kind of thing. So for us, putting the policies in place, or people asking us to put these policies in place, it's really a no-brainer simply because they already have been in place. I think it's important for people to know that. So things such as de-escalation, requiring that our officers go through de-escalation training. That's something that we do every year, at least once a year. That's part of our policy to say that officers need to use de-escalation whenever it's feasible. In the same realm, I think it's really important for the community to understand the reality of what officers face at times. So it's easy for us to say that officers should have to use de-escalation in every situation. But I think in trying to manage people's expectations, it's important for people to understand that in police work and in some of the situations that our police officers face, de-escalation is not possible in every single situation. So while it's important for us to have these in place, these policies in place, banning chokeholds, things like that, I think it's also important for folks to understand that there's been a lot of absolute talk, meaning people want it to be one way or the other, and there is no in between. And the reality is that we work in a world where there's a lot of gray area, meaning it's not this or this. Oftentimes, officers are faced with split-second decisions on what they need to do, and they're trying to apply these policies in the best way they can to a situation that, quite frankly, they don't completely control.
Thank you so much for that. And just quick question, do our officers wear body cameras?
Yes, they do. We actually implemented a body camera program in the year 2016, and since that time, have worked to improve and look at ways that we can improve the body camera program. So by and large, in most instances where officers are making contact with citizens, so traffic stops, calls for service, particularly those calls for service that have a high risk of turning into something serious or something violent. So going to a call for service where maybe we're responding to a domestic violence call at somebody's home, calls of robberies or thefts in progress, those kinds of things. And so we have a requirement for officers to activate their body cameras during that time. Again, I think it's important. The reality with body cameras is that they're technology, and like any other piece of technology, they have issues. So even if officers activate those body cameras, sometimes they don't work, or sometimes they're not working, or sometimes during a scuffle, that body camera may actually come loose from the officer's uniform and fall on the ground and video the sky. So I think it's important for folks to understand that our body cameras are yet one more tool that our officers use to help us be transparent, to help us gather all the information from a scene that we may respond to. But like anything else, they're not foolproof, and they're not meant to be. They're not meant to give us 100% of the answers all the time. They're just one more tool that we use to be able to get those answers when we need them.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, Ronell, the next question is for you. And I'm trying to sum up several questions that we've got, all that kind of come into one particular area. And I've chosen you for this question because I think you're in a unique perspective of, well, Dr. Shafi and Mayor Hill are also part of the City Council. They're pretty much coming to the end of their term limits. So you will be going forward with probably most of this. And I've noticed a theme running through people saying they feel like they haven't been heard in the community, and also feeling included in the community. And I get the sense that the inclusion isn't just, I'm part of the community, but I want my background, my unique background, to be valued, not to make us a homogeneous Southlake. So going forward, how do you see the City Council handling this, and what can we do?
So I think it's interesting your question. So when I've been on the District Diversity Committee since it began, the Carolina State Diversity Committee, and I think it's interesting. Most people don't realize how diverse our community is. They certainly don't realize how diverse our school system is. They don't realize how diverse will be minority school district very soon. And I think given people's opinion of that, there would be revolting in the streets if that was as much of a problem as people seem to have in their minds. When I stepped up to run for City Council, I made safe, welcoming, and inviting to participate kind of the mantra for my campaign. The reason for that was I wanted all of our kids to feel safe in our communities. I wanted the families to be welcomed, and I wanted people to take it upon themselves to invite others to participate. And the reason for that was when I was running for City Council, I met over 1,000 people. I know this because I keep notebooks full of notes of every conversation I've ever had. And I can tell you not one time had I ever met someone, no matter what their background, no matter what their race, religion, ethnicity, not one time was that person not excited to be here. That doesn't mean they liked it or found Southlake to be perfect, but they felt like this was the right place for them. They just wanted to be a part of making it even better. So one of the things I've done, understanding that and being involved with the District Diversity Committee, is made it my business to get to know people, get to know what it is that they're encouraged by, what it is that they're dissuaded by, and to let them know that they have a voice. One of the things we do a tremendous job on council of is transparency. We have, thanks to Mayor Hill's leadership, we have numerous avenues to meet with people, to hear them even publicly. Most of our time as councilmen is not spent on the dais, as you all know. It's spent every day of the week often meeting with people in the community to not only allay their fears, but to hear their concerns. And being a leader in the community, those things don't fall on deaf ears. At least often I'm trying to find an avenue to seek a resolution. However, one of the things I think, and I know it sounds like I'm beating the same drum that Mayor Hill's beating, one of the things that I think is the biggest impediment to the overall success of Southlake is we have to have more people step up. And that doesn't mean as a mayor or a councilman or a school board member. That just means being welcoming and inviting to your neighbor. That means showing up to support one another. That means really wearing we protect the tradition. That really means harnessing the mantle of, we are dragons. Those are the types of things I'm a huge believer in. It's tough to hate someone or dislike someone when you get to know them. when I first moved to Southlake, one of the first things I did was to do the DPS Citizens Academy to better understand the police force and how to better serve them. And I can say that's been a very, very worthwhile relationship. But that was me taking time out of my day-to-day to get to understand the challenges they were facing so that I can better understand them. And through that relationship, I've understood the work that goes on behind the scenes for them to be an amazing police force. It doesn't happen by accident. So to bring this thing full circle, it really, really, really takes people to go from protesting to proaction. I think it takes from people talking to have the courage of their convictions and saying, you know what, I'm going to be involved. I think it takes from people to stop rabble-rousing and to say, you know what, I don't just want rousing applause. I want to be involved to help make this community better. And I continue to say this. We have the right people. We just have to activate them in some meaningful way.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have the last question for Dr. Shafi. So there's been a lot discussed about racial tensions between African Americans and the whites, but what are some of the areas that we can improve within the South Asian community when it comes to race, religion, language discrimination, and such matters? Dr. Shafi, you're on mute.
Great question, Aparna. Thank you very much, and a difficult one to answer too. So if for people who are not familiar with world geography, if you think we have it hard here, there are much worse places in the world. And in terms of racial, ethnic, religious divides, it's a universal problem. It's a global problem. It's a universal problem. What makes me optimistic, like I've always said, is that America is a unique place in the entire world. This is where people from all ethnicity, all races, all religions have migrated from all over the world over the last 3-4 centuries, and they've learned to live together. Now, every time there's a new wave of migration and a new type of immigrant population that makes it to our shores, there's always a backlash. There is no question about that. It has happened to Germans, Polish, peoples of Jewish folks. It has happened to Italians. It has happened to other, Chinese Americans and Japanese Americans and all sorts of different backgrounds. But this America is really truly the boiling, melting pot of the world, where people can come together, retain their culture, retain their connection to culture, but still be integrated in the society as true Americans. Probably the most important thing that we can do is, and this has to happen consciously in everybody's mind, is that when we meet a person who looks different than us, we need to start with the assumption that this person is a human being, is an American citizen. He has all the same rights and privileges that I do. And until that happens, consciously, I think we will continue to see some of the problems that we see today. You cannot legislate morality. You cannot legislate ethics, good behavior. A lot of problems that we are dealing with that lead to the consequences that we are facing now, whether it's in terms of racial prejudice or violence or vandalism, they have deep, deep social roots. Our police officers should not be called upon to solve social problems. Our community organizations have to step up. Government cannot solve these problems, not all of them. We have several good laws on the books, but how they get implemented in everyday life depends upon those social organizations in every community. Whether it's your church or your PTO or your baseball team or your soccer team or your neighborhood HOA, it is at that level where we have to listen to each other and treat each other with respect. As far as the South Asian community is concerned, and I would take it to the larger immigrant community, one of the things I see quite often is that we hold back. We hold back from fully integrating into the larger society here in the US. We may have lived here for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but we tend to live in our bubbles, in our isolated communities. Our social circles are isolated. Of course, at work, we interact with a lot of people, but otherwise we are isolated. We don't vote. We don't run for offices. A lot of us don't volunteer for opportunities that are available out there. We don't coach soccer teams and baseball teams, maybe because we don't know how to play baseball. But maybe we need to learn and become part of the larger society. So I think the burden is on all of us. But I would say the change starts with acknowledging that a problem exists. It doesn't mean that we are blaming anybody for it, but just acknowledge the problem and then we can start solving it.
Thank you very much. That was very powerful. I'm now going to start taking other questions that we have sent in. This one is for each of the organizations you represent, from Bridget Sweeney. What is our district, city, and police department doing to actively recruit and hire teachers, city employees, police department, fire department, to reflect the diversity, not only in our community, but in our local community, but in the United States as a whole? Is there anybody who would like to go first?
Can I say something to that?
Oh.
So one of the things that came up during the run-up to my election was one of the young ladies running for school board highlighted the fact that we needed more minority teachers. And I think to a large extent that was a slap on the face to the teachers we currently have. I don't need more minority teachers. I just need the teachers to feel empowered to do their job, to know that they're supportive and that they understand where the line is. That's true for anybody. I don't care what they look like. I don't think you have to be a special race or ethnicity or religious group. I think once we start going down that path, it's very easy to take our eyes off the ball. And now I'm not saying I'm not an advocate for quote unquote minority hires. I just think that I get really nervous when we lead with that. At the very least, it creates this felt tension from some of our good teachers, from some of our good police officers, that we're going to prioritize a minority hire over a quality hire. And I see that a lot in technology. And all it does is create tension that leads to a far worse result. So let's be careful about condemning people because of their race, religion, and ethnicity when that's a problem we're trying to address in this country and in this community.
Ronell, it seems like the questions are more coming from the perspective of, for example, I would like my children to be able to look around and see people who look like them. And I could give you the argument of, you can't tell me you can't find. Anybody who would like to go first?
Can I say something to that?
Oh.
So one of the things that came up during the run-up to my election was one of the young ladies running for school board highlighted the fact that we needed more minority teachers. And I think to a large extent that was a slap on the face to the teachers we currently have. I don't need more minority teachers. I just need the teachers to feel empowered to do their job, to know that they're supportive and that they understand where the line is. That's true for anybody. I don't care what they look like. I don't think you have to be a special race or ethnicity or religious group. I think once we start going down that path, it's very easy to take our eyes off the ball. And now I'm not saying I'm not an advocate for quote unquote minority hires. I just think that I get really nervous when we lead with that. At the very least, it creates this felt tension from some of our good teachers, from some of our good police officers, that we're going to prioritize a minority hire over a quality hire. And I see that a lot in technology. And all it does is create tension that leads to a far worse result. So let's be careful about condemning people because of their race, religion, and ethnicity, when that's a problem we're trying to address in this country and in this community.
Ronell, it seems like the questions are more coming from the perspective of, for example, I would like my children to be able to look around and see people who look like them. And I could give you the argument of, you can't tell me you can't find one qualified person. So I don't think the question is coming from the position of, let's hire less qualified candidates.
No, and I'm very, trust me, I'm very sensitive to that, and that's not where I was going. The question was asked, and this is something I've been very involved in, is because I head up the subcommittee for professional development, and I'm very proud that Michelle's on my team, the District University Committee. The point I'm making, absolutely, would I love for my daughters to have more teachers who look like them, or for the East Asian kids to have more teachers who look like them. I get it. The thing I talk about was not addressed to the whole, well, I don't want somebody who's less qualified. It was the fact that, first level, let's make sure we're correcting what needs to be corrected, in addition to trying to find teachers that are more reflective of the kids that our district now serves. And I go down that path because one of the questions that was asked was they felt that it was an issue with us not having hired them. And I know for a fact we have, as a district, worked to address that issue.
Okay, so Michelle, would you like to discuss how the Diversity Council is handling it?
Yes, so one of the, as Ronell knows, one of the teams, or one of the subcommittees on the District Diversity Council is around teacher recruitment and retention. And that is something that will be part of our district, of our cultural competence action plan, because we do, we would like to be able to increase the diversity of not only our teachers, but also of our staff, whether, staff across the district. We would like to see more teachers be reflective of the students that they are teaching. And, there's a lot of data that supports that helps students. And I think as we think about the curriculum that we want to work on and improve and enhance, being able to have that curriculum taught, and with a diverse group of teachers and staff, that's going to be important. When we talk about, how, the question before, part of that curriculum is going to be about, defining what culture means. What does diversity inclusion mean? And, we recognize we need to bring more diversity to our district. So we're looking at ways of how we're going to do that. And obviously, we believe we can find quality teachers that are diverse and draw them to our community. So that it will be a priority as when you'll see the action plan coming out.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting a lot of questions, and I know.
Can I just jump in real quick on this, because since we didn't get to talk about the city and diversity, one of the reasons we started SKILL, which is Southlake Kids Interested in Leadership, is to bring a diverse group of students to the table and teach them what city government is, and to show them how we do business in the city. And they follow every department in the city, and they learn how we budget. They learn what our limitations are. They learn what our community needs are. And this is a diverse group reflective of our community. And what we're hoping to do is get kids interested in going to college and getting interested in city management. We have a very diverse city employee staff. If you look at all of our city employees, you will see yourself, no matter what you look like, in our city staff. And Chief Casey can speak to our police officers. Our biggest problem in our policing and our fire department, and don't take this the wrong way, we just don't have, we have a hard time hiring for police in general because we don't have a lot of crime in Southlake. And a lot of people went to the academy and they're interested in really getting out there and really using their skill set. And sometimes it's a sleepy town in Southlake. And so getting folks interested in and telling them we've got things going on here that you can be a part of is always a constant struggle.
Thank you, Miriam. I just have a quick clarification. So can you tell me about a little bit more about the skill program that you were talking about for kids?
Yes. So we started that in 2015 when I first became mayor. It stands for Southlake Kids Interested in Leadership. We're on our coming up on our 5th year of students. We've had over 500 students apply. The school district selects about 25 students each year. I think we've gone higher than that. We put them through as 11th graders. So they apply at the beginning of their 11th grade year. We are looking at kids we have drama kids, we have sports kids, we have music kids, we have kids that just like to read a good book. We have every kind of student. It is an incredibly diverse group, but they start on day 1. They go through an entire semester. We award a scholarship at the end. We take them to Austin. They meet, we've gone into the governor's mansion and talked to the governor's aide. We've talked to the speaker of the house. We put them in front of huge corporations. They do a work study with TD Ameritrade. They actually go to TD Ameritrade. But what we're trying to teach them is how the city operates so that city management and even if they don't go into city management, they'll understand how their city ticks, and maybe they will be future community leaders and future mayors and future representatives.
I have a request. If there's any way we can compile some of these programs and send it to the foundation, maybe we can put that out as a resource for people. That would be really awesome.
Yes.
I do have a question for anyone on the group. This is a combination of a couple of questions. This is from Donna Harvey. She says several of us in the Black community has reached out to the city leaders to share challenges, concerns, and even ideas to improve relationships, and we have received no response. What is the city plan to do to engage the African American community? And then this is one from Beatrice, which is in the same line, Beatrice Terrazas. She says, has the city council ever considered or will consider activities like the Dallas dinner table or that community coming together and having dinner? She says, I believe it's time for our city to have some real discussions on race facilitated by expert trained people to come and bring everybody together. Anybody want to take that?
Well, I do want to say, first of all, I had 6 meetings yesterday, and I think I have 13 set up this week, mostly with students. I think I'm nonstop. And really, several parents have also come and talked to me already. So we're absolutely available, but you can reach out to anyone on council if it's a city issue, and a council member will be more than happy to contact you and sit down and talk to you. I find that most of the moving forward that we do, the really positive, is when we meet as smaller groups. I met with 7 yesterday for lunch. I'm meeting with 7 on Tuesday when I get back. So I think that's really important, and we're more than happy to make ourselves available. Now, in the middle of, I know when the protest was going on and there were a lot of phone calls, no, we were working with police to make sure that we kept that event safe for our children. We had no time to do anything else and meet with anyone. So the first meetings I was having were after that protest. So, and like I said, I'm booked solid next week. I think through June 29th, I still have meetings with people in our community that want to talk. And the community dinner is a great idea. There's 2 different things. So we had our first community dinner, and I wish more. I wish the people that are saying we're not doing anything would come to these events. We advertise them. We called every home in Southlake. We tell people what we're doing, but people don't come. Now, I don't take anything away from the 200 people that did come, but there's obviously a lot of people that aren't coming. We need more people to come. This year we were closing down a street in Bicentennial Park, and you just come and you sit with your neighbors. You don't know who you're sitting with. And I do think there's some opportunity to have some speakers, and I think that's a very good idea, and that's come up several times.
So I can only speak for me, but I know from seeing other councilmen as well, any email that I get or we get, we basically jump over one another to respond to it. We're not that council. I think that may be the image we have of 7 people who just sit on the dais, and that's not a whole lot that we do. So one of the things I've done, and I continue to do, is I make myself available, as does the entirety of the council, and much of my week is spent meeting with people. All of my week is spent being open to meet with people. So one of the things I found, and this as a newly elected councilman is I say with sadness, there's an inverse relationship between how much people exclaim loudly about what's not being done and how involved they actually are. I tend to find that the people who send us comments that are in some way meant to be critical, those people are almost never to be found when we're working towards constructive change. I can tell you that in 2014, when the whole Ferguson mess happened, I stepped up to be involved with our police forces and to learn about policing nationally, not because I wanted to and not because I felt like I needed to. I felt like it would be for the betterment of the entirety of the community, and I mean community nationally. It's not surprising that I sound like a broken record. We have to have people be involved. One of the things that I said during my inauguration speech was that I wanted to be the type of leader who inspired people to step up and lead from the community. The reality is, as a councilman or as a school board member, we need people in the community to help activate this change. We need people through demonstrated behavior to step up and be a leader from wherever they sit in the community. And I can just tell you, and this is not meant to in any way be harsh, but I can tell you, we have enough people here to get the job done. We need more people, fewer people protesting about what's not being done and being actively involved to provoke the change in this community. And let me be clear, I'm not against protesting in any shape, form, or fashion. I'm talking about the verbal protesting that seems to go on in email and on social media, but does not lead to constructive change for the kids, families, and businesses in that community. And that's not conducive to building the type of community that we all ostensibly want to build.
Thank you. And now we're coming up at about 4. I'm hoping to have at least one more question, if you guys don't mind, and go around and have everybody do their closing remarks. And this question is actually for Chief Casey. Chief Casey, this is kind of something you said in your original opening statement, and I've seen coming through the threads, is that a lot of people really look like they want for their family, their community to have a relationship with the police officers. And it's very clear that you want one too, and it can't be one way. A lot of people have been asking, what can the community do to forge the relationship? And in particular, one person said, you know, police officers, based on what they have to wear, don't always necessarily look like, you know, open to, you know, so how can you approach, what should the average person be doing? How can we help facilitate a relationship with you guys?
I think many of the speakers have talked about the community being willing to get involved. The police department has a number of programs that we offer to a variety of people in the community. One of the biggest programs that we share with our fire department, and that is our Citizens Academy. And that is a 7-week program that kind of gives some insight as to what we as officers do, as well as our firefighters, to help keep the community safe, whether it be on the police side or the fire side. And so I think that is helpful to give insight, but it's also helpful because you get to know, you get to put a face with a name. it's not just a police officer that you see on the side of the road that's got somebody stopped on traffic. You know, you see people like Sergeant Sewell, and you see people, other people within our police department who actually have names, who are very good at what they do and who are very passionate about what they do, in that they're passionate about keeping the community safe. So I think first and foremost, whether it's involving yourself or putting yourself out there to be involved in a program like that, or many may not know, but we have a very robust women's self-defense class that we teach. And we actually teach it for women and girls ages down to about 12 or 13. That's something that I'm personally involved in and have a passion for, because oftentimes women, you know, it's easy to say that we don't have the type of minorities that we have in our that we need to in our police department. But I will tell you that we have folks in our police department from all walks of life and all backgrounds. Oftentimes earlier we talked about what are we doing to recruit and that kind of thing. Every opportunity or every interaction we have with folks in the community is really an opportunity for us to recruit, whether it's teaching young girls how to defend themselves against being victims of crime, or it's whether our SROs are in the schools being mentors to our kids from young ages all the way up into high school. I think we approach it, every interaction we have, being out at these protests over the past couple of weeks, we had an opportunity to really have some great interactions with people, which wasn't, quite frankly, what people expected, I think, going into it. As I said before, from the get-go, we made it a point to try to build relationships with those that we were working with. So what I would say for folks is meet us halfway. You know, we want to extend and offer ourselves. It's not just through formalized programs. It's easy for us to talk about setting up or standing up more programs in the police department. The reality is we have a few programs that we are really, really good at, that we are able, we think, to be most effective at. And so I think what we would say to support us is meet us halfway, whether it's interacting with us on the street. We all make assumptions about each other. I think there have been a lot that's been going on, talking about police departments and police officers in particular, about bias, and it may be implicit bias and explicit bias. And I think it's important for all of us to remember that we're all humans and we all have that. So we're committed to working on that within our police department and within our workforce. We need a community that will meet us halfway.
Thank you.
I know we said that we were going to do closing statements after this, but I do have one more question for Ms. Moore. Is that okay? And then we'll do the closing statement. So Ms. Moore, what changes have been made since the 64% Diversity Council was set up? 3 schools have been recognized as inclusive. What does that mean? And what about the other schools?
That's a great question. Actually, that's what I was planning. Some of what I was planning to share with my closing remarks, kind of what is our path forward and what have we accomplished and what's our path forward. So in terms of the District Diversity Council, there's a few things that have been accomplished. One is, as I shared earlier, we revised and strengthened our student code of conduct. And we added very specific language related to racial discrimination and discrimination across, again, sexuality, gender, religion, all of it. What we also did and what we found, I mean, sometimes it took that video to open our eyes to some things that we weren't doing well and gaps. And one of them was the student code of conduct related to our extracurriculars. So it wasn't every extracurricular, students signed their code of conduct, and what we found is it wasn't consistent activity to activity. So maybe the consequences for a student in band may be different than a consequence for a student on the volleyball team. And so we have worked to streamline all of that, and that was very important, and something that I'm very proud that we've been able to accomplish. Secondly, we have been working on this cultural competence action plan. It is a very robust plan, and it covers a lot of different areas. It covers, and I've shared a little bit about it, professional development, teacher recruitment, student-led education and policy, communications, and I am forgetting an area. Let me see, it's right here. Oh, curriculum and instruction, of course. This plan, it's in the final stages. It will be, the final draft will be reviewed one more time by the District Diversity Council in the coming weeks, as well as presented and reviewed by, with our principals. The plan will be to present this for school board approval on August 3rd. So, because we want to begin implementation for the new school year. One of the things that I'm really excited about the plan is, as you know, that we, Coach McDade was assigned and appointed as our leadership and culture coach. And so this past year, he was going to campuses and meeting with student groups, going at lunchtime and meeting with even different, like maybe he might meet with the cheerleaders at Dawson Middle School. I mean, different groups. One of the things we're realizing is he can't be at every campus every day or every week. And so how do we continue to keep everything that we're doing on pace and making sure schools are sharing that information? So we're hoping to identify and select a campus culture coach. So that will be a team that will work together. Those will be a teacher, a staff member on each campus. And that will become a team that will work in partnership with the District Diversity Council. So there's a lot of change going on. And I know you had what was the second part of that question?
We had a question about the inclusive, the 3 schools were considered inclusive.
Oh, right. Yes, and that's really exciting. So that is called the No Place for Hate program. And I don't know how long it's been going on, but it is sponsored by the Anti-Defamation League. And that is so 3 of our campuses this past, just a few weeks back, received the designation. So it was Carroll Middle School, Dawson Middle School, and Rockenbaugh. And how you receive that designation is a committee forms on that campus of teachers, staff, and parents. And I think they're required to do 3 different activities that are either anti-bullying, anti-bias, that type of thing. And I think there's a few other requirements. The point is they want to, create non-bullying environments, again, which is a high priority for us. We want every student to always feel safe and welcomed at school, in their classroom, in the lunchroom, on the playground, across the board. There were, I think, a couple campuses that started, that were working towards that, but because of COVID-19, didn't quite finish all the activities. So it is something that we will be encouraging all campuses to adopt and to create that No Place for Hate committee. And I believe it will be part of the Cultural Competence Action Plan. So that is something that we're working towards. And those, as we have the District Diversity Council, but we also have campus diversity councils. So there are groups of parents, teachers, and students on each campus working on things going on their specific campus as well. So we, in addition to the 60, and I'm not sure, that's probably another 100 people, probably across the 11 campuses that are also at the table trying to affect change, trying to move this forward, to make it better for our students.
I'm sorry, I was mute. Thank you, appreciate it. I think we'll go around the board and just take your closing statements, and then I think we'll wrap up. So, Mayor Hill, do you want to start?
There you go. Thank you very much. I think this was very positive. One of the things I keep hearing over and over again, one of the things that's kind of made me sad in this process, but I know it can easily be turned into a positive. I was talking to a group of young women from the high school, and I was telling them the history of Bob Jones. They were black students, They didn't know that Bob Jones was a black man. And what made me so sad about that is that we haven't done a good enough job of telling the story of Southlake, of telling everyone what we are doing, what we have been doing. We've made a major shift in the last 2 years, even our public art now. We have tasked our Arts Council to look at art through the eyes of all of our citizens. Be the Bridge, which just went up in the roundabout at Highland and Whitechapel, was part of that complete change. That was not what was going to go there. That's there now because that was a point in time when we said we have to represent all of our citizens. We want everyone to see themselves when they drive around Southlake. We've got to tell the story better. We've got to let people know what we have done, what we are doing, what we're working on. Some things take quite a while. Our sculpture of Bob Jones and a historical walk with bronze plaques telling the story of when his family came and settled Southlake. That's in process right now, but we haven't told the story well enough. All of the things that we've worked on, skill that came up today, we haven't reached everyone with that information. And so I think this has been a positive opportunity to reflect and ask the question, where do we go from here? And to continue to push ourselves forward with that overwhelming sense of we all need to help. We all need to pull up a seat at the table. We can't stand back in the room. We can't sit at home on the keyboard. We've got to push up to the table. And it doesn't mean running for office. It doesn't mean sitting on a specific committee. It means groups of citizens coming together and putting together a day of volunteerism, where you invite everyone and everyone comes and everyone works on a project and you get to know the people that are there. I remember when my son was in the 9th grade at Carroll and we started, just seven, 8 moms. We started Say So one day around the lunch table because we wanted to do community service with our boys. And now there's hundreds of Say So boys and moms and hundreds of Say So girls and moms. It started from one idea, from a lunch and a discussion about I want my child to give to the community with me, and I want my child to get to know more people out of his little immediate group of friends. And every family has to look at our community the same way. No one person can fix this. We all have to be in it together. So thank you.
Oh, okay. So
Thank you.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So Ms. Moore, do you want to go next?
Sure. It was, for as much as I just shared about all the things that we have done in the last 2 years, right, since the video came out in fall of 2018, I sit on the District Diversity Council and have been very active in moving this work forward. But it took the what happened to George Floyd to bring this all back up in our community in a way where, reading those social media posts when the video resurfaced from our students, it was really hard to know how many of our students are in pain, are angry, don't feel that they're safe or welcomed in some cases at school. And we have to fix that. And I want to lead with saying that please know that we are hearing you. We need to open up those conversations again, clearly, because there are things going on that maybe the administration doesn't know, the board doesn't know. We're not afraid of those conversations. We know those are uncomfortable, but listen, we have and if we have to adjust the plan based on what we're hearing or what we begin to hear now, then we will, because we want all of our dragons to feel safe, right? We want them, it's not okay, the whole bullying and not feel welcome because your skin is a certain color, you're a certain sexuality. And so, you know, I'm excited about the partnership with, obviously, we need a partner as a community. I mean, you're hearing that message from all of us today. It's going to take all of us to be part of that solution. Know that your school district, though, has work to do. We know that changing the hearts and minds of our kids is something that families, the community, neighbors, we're all responsible for that. And we all have a part to play. And so, you know, it'll be, you know, I know from the district side, we're also looking to see how all school districts, I mean, I would like Carroll ISD to be a leader in this work for all of Texas, right? I think you might be hard pressed to find a lot of districts with a comprehensive equity and inclusion plan like we're about to launch this coming school year. And I believe the work that we have done can be an example for others. And I hope under my leadership, I would like to see that happen and sharing what we're doing so that other school districts, because this is not a Southlake problem, this is a global problem, right? And so that's important to me, and and something that I want us to be doing, to be sharing what we're learning and what we're doing with other districts in the state.
Thank you so much. I do want to acknowledge we've gotten a lot of questions.
Okay. Should I write them down? Are they for me?
No, there are questions for everyone, but I just want to make sure that I hear the attendees too. We received a lot of questions. We did kind of combine a bunch of questions together. So I hope that they will, the attendees can go back and listen to the recording and hopefully get their questions answered. But let's have Council Member Ronell Smith go next.
Thank you. So my family ended up in Southlake after we looked at 112 houses in 12 cities across the Metroplex. That's a lamentable fact to my wife, but it is true. And it's because we kept saying, what's the next Southlake? And to me, I recognized that it was different. I felt like the people that were here, they stood up for one another and they stood for something. The thing I'll say is we can do better. We will do better. We are doing better. What I would ask is that you judge us not by where we are, but how far we're willing to go. Don't judge us by the gulf between the two. Judge us by how hard we're willing to work to get there. I know we talked a lot about the people who we need to continue to step up. I've been proud to see the kids and families, the administration, the council members, people throughout the community, our police force, band together and work towards change in this community. It didn't take for Mr. Floyd to die for us to know we needed to make a lot of these changes. A lot of this has been ongoing. It's unfortunate that it's taken this for people to question and to oftentimes impugn the work that we're doing, and it's just because they don't see it. But I'll say, when people challenge me about how divided Southlake is, and I said I don't see it. I know there's work to do. But when we walked out in front of that protest last week, and I saw black and white and brown, I saw families of all races, religions, ethnicities, I saw every color represented. I saw the broad spectrum that represents this community. And to me, that's progress. And so I saw togetherness. I saw a willing to work towards change. To me, a broken community, you don't see that. You see one side against the other. And the thing I continue to say is that I know we have the right people in the right seats in this community. The thing I continue to be concerned about is I don't want us to make agreement the litmus test for the change that we're all working about. I know there's a lot of people sowing discord nationally, and there's people sowing discord even in this community. Again, I think we have to pull politics out of it and be about the people, that we harness the relationships we have in this community and that we should continue to build, to know that this is amazing. This is an amazingly vibrant community. I sit here before you now emboldened because one of the things I've done, thanks to the Southlake Historical Society, is forge a relationship with the descendants of Bob Jones. Bob and Elmeda Jones, who were raised 10 kids here in Southlake, well, what's now Southlake. And one of the most amazing things about that story is, as I've gotten to know members of that family, is they continue to say, we want people to know the legacy of Southlake. And as I've challenged them, like, what do you want people to know? And he says, I want people to know that Bob Jones from Southlake, a Black man, grew to be one of the most prosperous men in this area, dealing with racist white folks who knew that he wanted to build bridges, and they allowed him to do so. We have that heritage here. We have the willingness to do that here. That's what Southlake's about. And I'm so thankful to live in a community where people will work together to build a better, more vibrant community. We're not going to stand for where we are now. We're not going to stop until we get to a place where we can all say it's a safe, welcoming, and inviting to participate community. So thank you for your time, and thanks everybody for your questions.
Thank you so much. Chief Casey, you want to go next?
Sure. So I think I would close with the fact that the mission of the Southlake Police Department hasn't changed. So throughout these last 2 or 3 weeks, we've gotten a lot of questions, a lot of them really, really good questions. But what I would remind everyone of is that our mission hasn't changed. We remain committed to protecting and serving everyone in our community, whether you're visiting, whether you live here, whether you work there. And this is regardless of what you look like, who you are, or where you come from. That hasn't changed. As police officers, oftentimes we see people at their worst. In fact, many times we see people at their worst. And typically those are the times when we receive the most criticism and the most scrutiny. But I would also like to highlight that it's during these bad times that we also are able to highlight some of the best things about our officers, stepping in and restoring balance to people's lives who either aren't able to solve those problems themselves or who truly need our help. So I think it's important as we move forward to remember that. I think it's also important to remember that over these last several weeks, our communities have been hurting. The death of George Floyd, I tell you, affected everyone. Now, it may have affected everyone differently, but it impacted everyone. What happened in Minneapolis was wrong, period. And there's not anyone that I know of that would disagree with that. So I think it's important for people to understand that even from our police community, we agree, we are unified in the fact that that was wrong. And as much as it's impacted our communities, and particularly certain members of our communities, it has also impacted our police officers. We have certain police officers within our ranks that were profoundly impacted by that for one reason or the other. I think we, at this point, need to continue the conversations. We need to continue to build relationships with each other. That's been a common theme throughout this whole entire hour, but we mean it. We're here. We haven't gone anywhere. We were here before all this happened. We were here during some of the unrest and some of the protesting, and we'll continue to be here. But what we need now is we need productive conversations. We need people willing to step up and ask us questions, and we're willing to answer them. We need that dialogue, and we need ongoing relationships as we move forward. We're committed to doing that. Both Chief Brandon and I are committed to doing that. So for whatever it's worth, thank you for having us, and thank you for letting us be a part of this.
Thank you so much, Chief Casey. I really appreciate that. Dr. Shafi, you're next.
Yes, thank you very much again to Southlake Foundation for organizing this event. What I want to say in the end is that is what I said in the beginning, that every conversation, it starts with acknowledging the problem. And I think we need to say that systemic racism exists. We need to acknowledge it. Now, it doesn't mean that people are going around overtly saying that this guy is different, therefore I'm going to treat him differently, or that woman is different, therefore I'm going to treat her differently. It is an insidious thing. It is an internal thing. It is at subconscious level, but it happens. It happens every day. And you have to ask people of color who experience it every day. You have to ask women who experience it every day. And we need to have zero tolerance for it. There is just no question about it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There should be zero tolerance for any act of racism, bigotry, or hate in our society. Southlake is a wonderful city, but we are not an island. We are not a bubble. We live in a large metropolitan area of 2.5 million people. We live in a large state of 35 million people. We live in a large, diverse country, which is very connected. So anything that happens anywhere in the country or the world affects us, but we can only act locally. But that action requires participation of everybody. I want to conclude by saying that let's not demonize anybody. I want to thank our police chief, James Brandon, who couldn't be here today, and acting chief, Ashleigh, and her police officers. You run a very professional, highly trained, competent police force. I have utmost confidence in our police officers. And I want everybody to know that the bad actions of a handful of police officers in one part of the country does not mean that the entire police force is terrible people. Vast majority of them are good people. They're professional. They do their job well, and they put their lives on the line every day to protect us. So I want to acknowledge that. At the same time, as community leaders, we need to not be fearful of people who want to protest. If they have a grievance and they want to protest peacefully, we need to join them and acknowledge their grievances. And until that acknowledgement happens, nothing will happen. If I cannot see somebody's problem, then how will I be able to help them solve it? And listening is a very important part of that. And I keep hearing, whenever something like this happens, one thing that keeps coming up is, nobody is listening to me. Nobody is listening to me. And I want to say that we are here to listen to you. If you feel that we're not listening, we haven't done a good enough job. But we are here to listen to you, to help our people, help everybody who feels that they have been treated poorly. Because I truly believe that injustice, like Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We must continue to strive for justice for everybody. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Thank you for organizing it. It was a wonderful opportunity on a terrible topic, but it's something that we need to address head on. Thank you.
Dr. Shafi, thank you very much for closing out for us. As we come to the last couple of minutes of this call, I want to thank everybody. In particular, I really want to thank all of those who attended. We've had almost 100 people watch this, and that says a lot to me. To follow up on a Martin Luther King quote, we can all do small, great things, and we can certainly do a lot to change our community. I encourage everybody who is a part of this to please communicate with your city council, the school board, the police department. I think you've all shown that you want to hear from everybody and that the dialogue doesn't stop here. I think that the Southlake Foundation has done an awesome job of starting this conversation, and I encourage all participants to do conversations like this. Feel free to reach out to us. I think we'd all be willing to help any group out there that wants to have conversations within their community. Everybody on the panel, thank you so much for being here on a Saturday. And as somebody who's been in Southlake for 22 years, I've seen it evolve. And in my heart, I really feel like we can move us forward into a much better place. So thank you all for being here for our first discussion of what I hope is many discussions. And so for Aparna, myself, Kush, the other members of the Southlake Foundation, thank you all so much for participating.
Thank you. Bye-bye.